Today I'd like to do a video on protest and riot driving safety. There are basically four kinds of threats, generally. One is primary city roads being blocked long-term. This is where protests gather and sit or congregate for hours or days. And you can get plenty of warning from news and Twitter, typical news you would watch. The second is primary city roads being blocked spontaneously. The concern is that when you have a spontaneous group at an intersection, they can do a lot of damage in an area because they can break into cars, rob, intimidate, damage, and what we've now seen, firebomb cars with Molotov cocktails. And then people that are nervous get out of their cars and they're further assaulted, robbed, and that's a heavy concern. The next two are highways. Highway long-term blockage and highway spontaneous blockage. With the spontaneous blocking of highways, the concern is that you have high traffic moving down the road, and then usually a leader of some kind encouraging people to get out on the freeway and start walking across, and they block the road. This can cause a lot of damage to other vehicles because people are obviously slamming on their brakes, which causes more wrecks, which causes more chaos because no one knows what's going on. And then you can have the same thing, those same riders, protesters, damage to those initial vehicles, damage to the vehicles that we're trying to stop. And if you try and move your vehicle or leave that situation, even by turning around on a shoulder, in the last month or so, those vehicles have been aggressively attacked, firebombed, robbed, assaulted, those kind of things. So that's something to keep in mind on those specific kinds of roadways. In regards to protesting, I basically see two kinds of people. The two kinds of people are a person or a family that chooses not to be close to hazardous environments like the riots, protests, and want to leave for a safer area when chaos is approaching. The other family is the type that choose to stay because they think the situation is just going to resolve itself, even if they are in an area that has prolonged protest, like Seattle. Families that decide to stay and just think it would get better, and all of a sudden they're sitting in Chaz. And that same group that second group, those are the same kind of people that think that something might happen, their house gets broken into, the roads are blocked, those kind of things, and they'll just call 911, and then miraculously, a helicopter shows up with cops are going to rappel out of it before they hang up the phone in 30 seconds. And I think that it is important to realize, especially what's been going on, that is not the case. That you have mass protesting in these areas, which is typically where the people are hit or miss on whether they should leave or go somewhere. That law enforcement is going to be dedicated to the larger threat area. So they're going to be trying to make sure that riders don't burn down half the city like happened in Minneapolis. They're going to make sure that riders aren't blocking major freeways, causing incredible chaos across major platforms and city hubs. What I do want to focus on are families that are aware something's going on and they are choosing to not put their lives and themselves in danger of being assaulted or damaged or robbed. As I said in several videos, I want to make sure that you follow your local laws. They can vary drastically in counties, in cities, and in states. They can vary drastically. So just remember what your local laws are and make sure you're up to date with those. Anything I say, make sure that is prefaced with follow your local laws. How do you know what's going on around you? Typically, in the last month or two, few months, the typical news, your local news, Fox News, CNN, whoever you want to follow, they are not reporting on stuff until it gets bad enough for them to justify using their airtime. And typically that's meant that they are not covering footage of stuff until there are buildings burning or there is blood in the street. And things escalate drastically before that point arrives. And so how do you know where to get your information? So I want to share how I've been getting information, and it's been really helpful to know what's going on around us. The two main avenues that I've been using to make sure I'm staying as best as possible on top of what's going on around me is a good police scanner. I really like the Unit Home Patrol 2. It's very intuitive. It's basically a touchscreen, and you can program it very easily for where you are. And additionally, Twitter. And Twitter's a black hole of stuff. Everything just gets funneled in. So what I've been doing specifically is I've been searching Antifa, BLM, protest, or burn down, and you can vary those to different degrees, but typically if you search those and then narrow by geographic area and time frame, usually you can kind of stay on top of what's going on. At least that was until they switched to different messaging apps, but still the people that are not hardcore rioters are still using Twitter to bounce information around in pictures and stuff.